एवरीवन, आज हम इंटरनेशनल इकोनॉमिक्स के टॉप 50 वाइवा क्वेश्चंस को सिंप्लीफाई करेंगे। इसमें हम टर्म्स ऑफ ट्रेड, प्रेबिश सिंगर मॉडल और बीओपी जैसे ज़रूरी टॉपिक्स कवर करेंगे ताकि आपका वाइवा बिना किसी टेंशन के क्लियर हो सके। चलिए पॉइंट टू पॉइंट समझते हैं। क्वेश्चन 1. व्हाट इज मीन बाय टर्म्स ऑफ ट्रेड? इट इज़ द रेशियो एट विच one country's products are exchanged for another country's products. Simply, it is the ratio of exports prices to import prices. Question 2. What is net barter terms of trade? It is the ratio between the index of export prices and the index of import prices. Question 3. What is gross barter terms of trade? Introduced by Taussig, it is the ratio of the total physical quantity of imports to the total physical quantity of exports. Question 4. What are income terms of trade? It measures a country's capacity to import. It is calculated as net barter terms of trade multiplied by the volume of exports. It shows how much imports can be bought with total export earnings. Question 5. What is single factorial terms of trade? It adjusts net barter terms of trade for changes in the productivity of the export sector. It shows the amount of imports a country gets per unit of domestic factor input used in exports. Question 6. What is double factorial terms of trade? It considers productivity changes in both domestic export sector and the production sector, that is imports. Question 7. When are terms of trade considered favorable? When export prices rise faster than import prices, meaning the country can buy more imports for the same amount of exports. Question 8. How does reciprocal demand affect TOT? If a country's demand for foreign goods is stronger than the foreign demand for its goods, the TOT will move against that country. That is, it became unfavorable. Question 9. What is the impact of devaluation on TOT? Devaluation usually makes exports cheaper and imports costlier, often leading to a deterioration of the terms of trade initially. Question 10. How do tariffs influence TOT? Tariffs reduce the demand for imports, which may force foreign sellers to lower prices, potentially improving the home country's TOT. Question 11. What is the Prebisch-Singer hypothesis? It suggests that over the long run, the price of raw materials tends to decline relative to the price of manufactured goods. Question 12. Who does the Prebisch-Singer model mostly affect? Developing countries, as they mostly export primary products and import manufactured goods from developed nations. Question 13. Why do primary product prices fall according to this model? Because as world income increases, the demand for food or raw materials grows slowly, while the demand for manufactured goods grows rapidly. Question 14. What are gains from trade? The net benefits that countries experience from being able to trade with each other, usually seen as an increase in total consumption and production efficiency. Question 15. What is the relation between TOT and gains from trade? Generally, an improvement in TOT leads to an increase in the gains from trade for that country. Question 16. Can a country gain from trade even if TOT is stable? Yes, through specialization and increased production efficiency, static and dynamic gains. Question 17. What are static gains? The immediate increase in the social welfare and utility due to better allocation of existing resources through trade. What are dynamic gains? Long-term benefits like technological growth, increased investment, and economic development triggered by international trade. Question 19. Who proposed the theory of immiserizing growth? Jagdish Bhagwati in 1958. Question 20. What is immiserizing growth? A situation where economic growth leads to such a massive worsening of TOT that the country ends up worse off than before the growth. Question 21. When does immiserizing growth occur? When a country is heavily dependent on one export and its increased supply causes the world price of that export to crash significantly. Question 22. Is immiserizing growth common? No. It is a theoretical possibility that requires very specific extreme conditions, inelastic demand and heavy export bias. Question 23. Define balance of payments. A systematic record of all economic transactions between the residents of a country and the rest of the world during a specific period, usually a year. Question 24. What is the difference between balance of trade and balance of payments? Balance of trade only records trade in physical goods, that is, visible items. Balance of payments records goods, services, invisible items, and capital transfers. Question 25. What is the current account in BOP? It records the export and imports of goods and services and unilateral transfers like gifts or remittances. Question 26. What is the capital account in BOP? It records all international transactions that involve the transfer of ownership of assets such as loans, investments, and banking capital. Question 27. Why is BOP always balanced in an accounting sense? Because it follows the double entry bookkeeping system. Every credit has a corresponding debit. Question 28. What are autonomous items? Transactions made for profit or personal reasons independent of the state of the BOP. Example, buying a foreign car. Question 29. What are accommodating items? Transactions undertaken by the government or central bank to bridge the gap in the BOP. Example, borrowing from the IMF. Question 30. What is BOP disequilibrium? A situation where the total credits do not equal to the total debits in the autonomous transactions, leading to either a surplus or a deficit. Question 31. What is a BOP deficit? When a country's autonomous payments exceed its autonomous receipts is known as BOP deficit. Question 32. What is a BOP surplus? When a country's autonomous receipts exceeds its autonomous payments. Question 33. Name a natural cause of BOP disequilibrium. Natural calamities like floods or earthquakes that destroy crops and industries and force a country to import more. Question 34. What are cyclical cause of disequilibrium? Changes in the business cycle. For example, a recession in a foreign country reduces demand for our exports. Question 35. What is structural disequilibrium? Caused by long-term changes in the economy, like the emergence of synthesis substitutes of a country's main export. Question 36. How does inflation cause a BOP deficit? High domestic prices make exports expensive and imports cheaper, increasing the trade gap. Question 37. What is fundamental disequilibrium? A persistent and long-term deficit in the BOP that cannot be corrected by temporary measures. Question 38. What is devaluation? A deliberate reduction in the value of domestic currency against foreign currencies by the government to boost exports. Question 39. How does devaluation help fix a BOP deficit? It makes exports cheaper for foreigners and imports more expensive for locals, encouraging more selling and less buying. What is depreciation? The fall in the value of currency due to market forces, demand and supply, and not government action. Question 41. What are unilateral transfers? One-way payments like gifts, donations, or remittances for which no service is rendered in return. Question 42. What is the official reserve account? The account that tracks the holdings of foreign currencies, gold, and SGRs by the central bank to balance the BOP. What is trade balance? The difference between the value of visible exports and visible imports. Question 44. Can a country have a BOT deficit but a BOP surplus? Yes, if the surplus in the capital account, like high foreign investment, is larger than the trade deficit. Question 45. What is the role of the IMF in BOP? The IMF provides short-term financial assistance to member countries to help them overcome BOP difficulties. Question 46. What are export subsidies? Financial help given by the government to domestic firms to help them sell goods at lower prices abroad. Question 47. What is the Marshall-Lerner condition? A rule that states devaluation will only improve BOP if the sum of the price elasticities of demand for exports and imports is greater than 1. Question 48. What are invisibles in BOP? Services like shipping, banking, insurance, and tourism that are not physical goods. Question 49. What is capital outflow? When domestic residents purchase assets abroad or give loans to foreign countries. Question 50. Why is economic growth sometimes bad for BOP? High growth usually increases people's income, leading to higher demand for imported luxury goods, which can cause a deficit. तो ये थे वो इम्पॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चंस जो आपके एग्ज़ाम्स और वाइवा में बार बार पूछे जाते हैं। इन्हें अच्छे से रिवाइज कर लीजिए और अगर कोई भी डाउट हो तो कमेंट्स में ज़रूर पूछें। वीडियो पसंद आई हो तो लाइक और सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें। बेस्ट ऑफ लक।